There is one discipline rule Miyamoto Musashi followed, that most people would reject immediately, not because it is difficult, not because it is painful, but because it removes the last illusion people cling to, hope. Musashi believed that hope weakens action, that comfort delays commitment, and that the option to quit is more dangerous than the enemy. This rule did not motivate him. It trapped him. Once applied, there was no return to who he was before. No excuses. No emotional refuge. No identity to fall back on. This is the rule that made Musashi terrifyingly consistent. Not inspired. Not driven. Unavoidable. And once you understand it, you will realize why most people can never follow it. Because it does not make life easier. It makes quitting impossible. Chapter 1. The rule that removes escape. There is a discipline rule, so severe that most people reject it instantly. Not because it is complicated, not because it is painful, but because once you accept it, you cannot go back. Miyamoto Musashi lived by this rule, and it is the reason his discipline was feared, not admired. Most discipline systems promise improvement. This rule promises irreversibility. Once applied, quitting is no longer a psychological option. Not because you are stronger, but because escape has been structurally erased. Musashi understood something modern people refuse to face. As long as retreat exists, discipline is fragile. You may train today. You may endure tomorrow. But the moment pressure rises, the mind searches for exits. And it always finds them. Musashi designed his discipline to make exits impossible. This is the scariest part of his system. He did not motivate himself to continue. He removed the ability to stop. Most people believe quitting is a failure of character. Musashi saw it as a failure of design. If quitting is available, it will eventually be used. Fatigue will summon it. Fear will justify it. Boredom will normalize it. So Musashi removed it at the root. This rule is simple in structure, but brutal in consequence. Once a path is chosen, it becomes the only path that exists. No backups. No safety nets. No second identities waiting in the background. When Musashi committed to training, there was no alternative life he could fall into. When he chose isolation, there was no social relief waiting. When he chose mastery, there was no comfort-based exit. This is why his discipline did not rely on emotional strength. Emotion cannot break what has no alternative configuration. Modern people negotiate with themselves daily. I'll do it later. I'll rest today. I'll restart tomorrow. Musashi eliminated later. Time itself was structured to enforce continuity. This is why his days looked repetitive to outsiders. Same wait time, same practice order, same physical strain, same silence. They called it obsession. It was not obsession. It was containment. Containment is the elimination of psychological space where doubt can grow. Most people fail not because they lack desire, but because their lives are full of gaps. Gaps where the mind wanders. Gaps where alternatives whisper. Gaps where comfort negotiates with discipline. Musashi closed the gaps. This is what made his discipline terrifying. Once inside the structure, there was nothing to debate. The rule did not care how he felt. The rule did not respond to fatigue. The rule did not acknowledge fear. It only executed. This is why Musashi could continue when others collapsed. Not because he was tougher, because his system did not permit collapse. Most people try to become disciplined while keeping their exits intact. They want progress without commitment, control without sacrifice, strength with guarantees. Musashi accepted none of this. He understood a harsh truth. Guarantees destroy discipline. If you know you can quit, you will eventually plan for it. If you know you can fall back, you will subconsciously aim there. If you know relief exists, endurance weakens. So he lived as if retreat was already burned. Not symbolically, practically. No alternative skills. No parallel ambitions. No identity outside the path. This is what makes this rule frightening. It demands the death of optional selves. Most people are protected by multiplicity. If one version fails, another steps in. Musashi refused this protection. He became singular, and singular systems are unbreakable. This is why his discipline was stable across decades. It did not depend on mood cycles. It did not rely on inspiration. It did not fluctuate with circumstance. It was locked. The modern mind resists this rule instinctively. It calls it extreme, unhealthy, dangerous. But Musashi understood something deeper. Only total commitment produces total calm. Partial commitment produces anxiety. When you are half in, your mind is constantly scanning for escape. This creates tension, restlessness, mental noise. When there is no exit, the mind becomes silent. This silence is mistaken for hardness. It is actually relief. Relief from decision-making. Relief from self-negotiation. Relief from internal betrayal. Musashi did not seek peace through comfort. He achieved peace through inevitability. This is the rule that makes his discipline terrifying. Once applied, you cannot pretend anymore. No shortcuts. No loopholes. No delayed accountability. You either obey the path or fracture. And most people fracture before they ever begin. This chapter is not an invitation. It is a warning. If you are unwilling to remove your exits, do not study Musashi's discipline. Because once this rule is understood deeply, continuing halfway becomes impossible. In the next chapter, we will go deeper. Because once escape is removed, the next enemy is not weakness. It is choice itself. And Musashi eliminated that too. Chapter 2. The removal of escape. Most men believe discipline fails because they are weak. Musashi knew the truth. Discipline fails because escape is allowed. As long as there is a way out, the mind will search for it. As long as quitting remains possible, it will eventually be chosen. Musashi's scariest rule was not about effort. It was about elimination. He removed retreat before struggle began. This is the difference between modern discipline and Musashi's discipline. Modern discipline says, try harder. Musashi said, remove the option to stop. He understood a brutal psychological law. The mind does not break under pressure. It breaks when it senses relief is available. Hope of escape weakens, resolve faster than pain ever could. That is why Musashi trained in isolation. Why he simplified his life. Why he narrowed his path until only forward movement remained. Not to punish himself, but to trap himself inside inevitability. Most people keep discipline as a preference. Musashi made it a condition. Once he committed to a path, there was no alternate identity waiting. No comfort version of himself. No softer future to retreat into. This is what made his discipline terrifying. Not intensity, finality. When Musashi decided to train, there was no internal discussion about stopping. Stopping was not an option. When he chose solitude, there was no backup plan for loneliness. Loneliness was accepted as permanent. This created psychological pressure most people cannot tolerate. But pressure is not destructive by default. Pressure becomes destructive only when it is resisted. Musashi did not resist pressure. He aligned with it. By removing escape, pressure stopped feeling hostile. It became directional, like gravity. You do not fight gravity. You move according to it. This is where modern minds fail. They want discipline without consequences, commitment without sacrifice, strength without confinement. Musashi rejected this illusion. He understood that freedom does not come from unlimited options. It comes from irrevocable choice. Once the choice is final, the mind relaxes. No more evaluating alternatives. No more fantasizing about easier paths. No more internal bargaining. Energy stops leaking. This is why people who go all in often feel calmer than those who keep options open. Musashi went all in on life itself. He closed doors deliberately. If something distracted him, it was removed. If something softened him, it was abandoned. If something created internal division, it was cut away. Not out of anger, out of precision. This is why his discipline did not require constant motivation. Motivation exists only when uncertainty exists. Once the outcome is unavoidable, motivation becomes irrelevant. You do not need motivation to breathe. You do not need motivation to fall. You do not need motivation when there is no alternative. Musashi built discipline on this principle. He did not ask himself how long he would endure. Endurance was assumed. He did not ask whether the sacrifice was worth it. The sacrifice had already been accepted. This is what most people refuse to do. They want to see how it feels first. They want to test the waters. They want to keep their options open. Musashi understood that testing creates weakness. Certainty creates stability. When escape is available, discomfort feels unbearable. When escape is removed, discomfort becomes ordinary. This is the psychological shift that made Musashi unbreakable. He did not grow stronger than pain. He made pain unavoidable. And when pain is unavoidable, the nervous system adapts. Fear dissolves. Resistance collapses. Action stabilizes. This is the part of Musashi's teaching that feels dangerous, because it demands something modern people avoid at all costs. Commitment without reassurance. No guarantee of success. No promise of reward. No safety net. Just obedience to a path chosen once. This is why his rule still works today. If you remove quitting as an option, effort reorganizes itself. If you remove retreat, courage stops being necessary. If you remove alternatives, discipline becomes automatic. Ask yourself honestly, where in your life do you still allow escape? Where do you tell yourself, I can always stop? I can always change direction. I can always quit if it gets too hard. Those are not comforts. They are weaknesses waiting to activate. Musashi did not eliminate escape gradually. He eliminated it decisively. And once removed, he no longer needed to be strong. He only needed to continue. In the next chapter, we go deeper into what happens after escape is removed. Because once there is no way out, the next enemy reveals itself, impulse. And Musashi did not fight impulse. He dismantled it. Chapter 3, where fear is removed, not confronted. Fear is not defeated by courage. Musashi understood this early. Courage still acknowledges fear. It still reacts to it. It still allows fear to exist as a force. Musashi chose a colder solution. He removed fear's function. Most people believe fear is something to overcome in the moment. A surge of adrenaline. A test of character. Musashi saw fear as a structural flaw. Fear appears when outcomes matter too much. When identity is at risk. When loss is imagined. So he attacked fear at its source. He eliminated attachment. This is the part of his discipline that feels disturbing to modern minds. Musashi trained himself to act as if loss had already occurred. Reputation, comfort, safety, even survival. Once these are mentally surrendered, fear has nothing left to threaten. This is not pessimism. It is preparation. Fear depends on anticipation. Musashi shortened the future until only the present remained. When there is no imagined future to protect, hesitation disappears. This is why his actions appeared ruthless. Not because he was aggressive, but because nothing internal was asking for permission. Fear whispers questions. What if you fail? What if this hurts? What if you lose? Musashi did not answer these questions. He designed a mind where such questions no longer formed. This is the distinction most people miss. They try to be brave during fear. Musashi made fear irrelevant before action. This required brutal honesty. He examined what he truly feared. Not death, not pain, loss of self-image, fear of appearing weak, fear of humiliation, fear of being wrong. So he dismantled the image. When there is no image to protect, fear dissolves. Most people live guarded lives because they are constantly defending a narrative, who they think they are, who they want to appear as. Musashi abandoned narrative. He was not a warrior proving himself. He was not a man seeking victory. He was function, movement, timing, execution. Fear cannot survive in function. Fear needs story. This is why modern discipline collapses under pressure. It is still personal. Musashi removed personality from action. He did not ask what the act meant. He only asked whether it aligned with the path. This is why fear did not control him in battle. Fear requires evaluation. Musashi removed evaluation. He trained until reaction preceded thought. When danger appeared, the body moved before the mind could imagine consequences. This is not recklessness. It is conditioning. The body obeys what it is trained to do. Under stress, it does not rise to ideals. It falls to habits. Musashi made his habits mercilessly precise. Fear had no time to intervene. This is the same principle used in modern elite training. Soldiers, surgeons, emergency responders. They do not rely on courage. They rely on automatic response. Musashi pioneered this internally. He rehearsed loss. He practiced under discomfort. He trained when exhausted, so that fear would never encounter unfamiliar territory. Fear thrives in the unknown. Musashi eliminated the unknown through repetition. Pain became familiar. Fatigue became expected. Risk became routine. When everything is expected, fear loses its edge. This is why comfort is dangerous. Comfort preserves fear. The more comfort you protect, the more fear you create. Musashi lived deliberately without comfort, not as punishment, as inoculation. He knew that a soft life creates fragile reactions. So he chose hardness early. Hard training, hard solitude, hard honesty. This is where the discipline becomes frightening, because it demands the surrender of emotional safety. Most people cling to safety nets. Musashi burned them, not to prove strength, but to remove fear's leverage. Fear only works when there is something to lose. Musashi trained as if he had already lost everything. This is the scariest discipline rule he followed. Live as if nothing essential can be taken from you. When this becomes real, not symbolic, fear has no role. This does not make you fearless. It makes fear irrelevant. You will still feel sensations, heart rate, adrenaline, alertness, but no paralysis, no hesitation, no internal resistance. This is why Musashi appeared calm in moments others collapsed. Calm was not emotional. It was structural. Fear had nowhere to land. Ask yourself this with absolute honesty. What are you protecting so fiercely that fear controls your behavior? An image? A reputation? Comfort? Approval? As long as these remain sacred, fear will rule. Musashi made nothing sacred except execution. This is not a message of recklessness. It is a message of clarity. When the path is clear, fear becomes noise, and noise can be ignored. In the next chapter, we go deeper, because once fear is neutralized, the next enemy appears, force. And Musashi never relied on force. He relied on something colder, precision. Chapter 4, No Mercy for the Self. This is where Musashi's discipline becomes frightening, not because it is violent, not because it is harsh toward others, but because it shows no mercy toward the self. Most people believe their greatest enemy is the outside world, circumstances, other people, bad luck. Musashi knew better. The most dangerous enemy lives inside you. The part that asks for comfort. The part that explains weakness. The part that wants exceptions. So he treated that part with zero compassion. This chapter is not motivational. It is surgical. Musashi did not hate himself. He simply refused to negotiate with himself. Modern minds misunderstand this completely. They hear self-compassion and think discipline must be gentle. They hear balance and think struggle must be softened. Musashi rejected this logic, not because he was cruel, but because he understood reality. Reality does not care how you feel. A blade cuts regardless of emotion. Cold, hard ground does not soften because you are tired. An opponent does not hesitate because you are unprepared. Mercy toward the self creates fragility. Musashi eliminated fragility. When his body resisted, he trained. When his mind resisted, he continued. When exhaustion appeared, he slowed nothing. Not recklessly, precisely. This is an important distinction. Musashi was not reckless with his body. He was merciless with excuses. Pain was not a signal to stop. Pain was information. Information about limits. Information about weakness. Information about where discipline was incomplete. Most people treat discomfort as danger. Musashi treated it as instruction. This is why his endurance grew beyond normal limits. He did not seek suffering for ego. He simply refused to avoid it. Avoidance is where weakness multiplies. Every time you escape discomfort, you teach the mind that escape is acceptable. Musashi never taught that lesson. Instead, he taught obedience. When it was time to train, the body trained. When it was time to endure, the body endured. No internal debate. This is why his discipline did not collapse during illness, hunger, or fear. He did not rely on feeling good. He relied on structure. Modern discipline collapses because it is conditional. I'll do it if I feel okay. I'll do it if the conditions are right. I'll do it if I have energy. Musashi removed all conditions. Action was mandatory. This creates a psychological shift most people never experience. When the self realizes there will be no mercy, it stops asking. Complaints disappear. Resistance weakens. Execution sharpens. This is not suppression. It is extinction. Musashi allowed the weak self to starve, not through punishment, through neglect. He did not argue with doubt. He ignored it. He did not comfort fear. He acted anyway. He did not soothe fatigue. He adjusted pace but did not stop. This is how internal noise dies. People often ask, isn't this dangerous? Only if done blindly. Musashi was not blind. He listened to signals of damage, but he ignored signals of comfort-seeking. There is a difference. Pain that destroys structure must be respected. Pain that challenges identity must be embraced. Most people confuse the two. They stop at the first discomfort and call it self-care. Musashi knew better. True care is building something that does not collapse. This is why his discipline forged resilience rather than burnout. Burnout comes from emotional overexertion. Musashi removed emotion from the equation. No hype, no rage, no drama. Only quiet, repeated obedience. This chapter reveals why his system terrifies modern minds. It leaves no room for self-deception. You cannot pretend. You cannot perform. You cannot negotiate. You either obey or you don't. And if you don't, you learn immediately. No excuses survive here. Musashi accepted that the path would feel unfair. Unfair to comfort. Unfair to pleasure. Unfair to ego. But fair to reality. Reality rewards consistency, not feelings. This is the discipline most people avoid, because it demands the death of entitlement, the belief that you deserve ease, the belief that effort should feel good, the belief that discipline should be pleasant. Musashi discarded all of this. What remained was terrifyingly effective. A man who did not break under pressure, because pressure had already been absorbed into daily life. If you are disturbed by this chapter, that is normal. It means you still believe the self must be protected. Musashi believed the self must be shaped. Protection creates weakness. Shaping creates power. In the next chapter, we move deeper still, beyond mercy, beyond endurance, into the final layer, where identity itself dissolves, and discipline becomes something colder than effort. It becomes inevitability. Chapter 5. The willingness to become nothing. There is a point where discipline stops building you and starts erasing you. Most people quit here, not because the work is too hard, but because what must die is too intimate. Miyamoto Musashi understood this stage better than most. He did not romanticize it. He did not soften it with meaning. He accepted it as necessary. To become unbreakable, you must be willing to become nothing. This is the scariest rule he ever followed. Not endurance, not pain, not isolation, but the deliberate destruction of identity. Most people protect their identity at all costs. They cling to labels, to stories, to self-images. I am this kind of person. I don't do that. This isn't me. Musashi saw identity as a cage. Identity creates limits. Limits create hesitation. Hesitation creates weakness. So he dismantled himself. Not once. Repeatedly. Every time an identity formed, he questioned it. Every time pride appeared, he starved it. Every time comfort attached itself to a version of who he was, he abandoned that version. This is why his discipline kept evolving. Most people stop growing when discipline becomes part of their identity. They start defending it. They become rigid. They protect their methods instead of refining them. Musashi did the opposite. He treated identity as temporary, useful only until it became an obstacle. This is why he could adapt when others broke, because nothing inside him demanded preservation. The modern mind resists this idea violently. We are taught that identity gives stability, that knowing who you are gives strength. Musashi learned the opposite. Identity is weight, and weight slows reaction. In combat, in training, in life, the slower one dies first. So he practiced becoming empty, not emotionally, structurally. He reduced his needs, simplified his routines, stripped his life down to what was essential for the path. No reputation to protect, no comfort to defend, no image to maintain. This made him frighteningly flexible. When conditions changed, he changed. When strategies failed, he abandoned them. When old victories tempted him to repeat himself, he let them go. This is what most people cannot do. They cling to what once worked. They cling to who they once were. Musashi killed yesterday's version of himself without hesitation. This is what made his discipline immune to stagnation. Stagnation is not caused by laziness. It is caused by attachment. Attachment to identity. Attachment to success. Attachment to familiarity. Musashi treated success as disposable. He was willing to look foolish again, to return to beginner status, to start from nothing. This willingness is rare. It requires a cold acceptance of impermanence. The ego resists this with everything it has, because ego survives through continuity. Musashi denied it continuity. He lived as if he could be erased at any moment. This removed fear. Fear depends on something to lose. When nothing is protected, fear collapses. This is why his discipline appeared fearless. Not because he felt no fear, but because fear had nothing to threaten. This rule is terrifying because it leaves no refuge, no identity to retreat into, no narrative to justify weakness, no version of yourself to hide behind. Only action, only alignment with the path. Most people want discipline to strengthen who they already are. Musashi used discipline to dissolve who he was. That is the difference. One approach builds a better cage. The other removes the cage entirely. This chapter is where discipline stops being self-improvement. It becomes self-removal. And very few are willing to go this far, because becoming nothing feels like death. But Musashi understood a deeper truth. What dies is limitation. What remains is function. A blade does not need identity. It needs sharpness. Musashi made himself sharp by removing everything that dulled him. In the next chapter, we will move deeper still, beyond identity, beyond ego, into the state where discipline no longer feels human, where action is automatic, where quitting is no longer an option, because there is no one left to quit. Chapter 6, Obedience Without Emotion. By this stage, discipline no longer looks like effort. It looks like obedience, cold, unquestioned, immediate. This is where Musashi's system becomes frightening to the modern mind. Because here, emotion is no longer consulted, not ignored, not suppressed, simply irrelevant. Most people believe emotion is the fuel of action. Musashi understood emotion is the enemy of consistency. Emotion fluctuates. Discipline must not. This is why most people fail even after understanding the rules. They still wait to feel aligned. Musashi never waited. He obeyed regardless of internal state. Tiredness did not alter the schedule. Doubt did not delay action. Fear did not slow execution. This was not bravery. It was architecture. Musashi trained himself to act first and experience emotion later, if at all. This reverses the modern order of life. Most people feel, then act. Musashi acted, then felt nothing. This is the scariest rule he ever taught, because it removes the last excuse. When emotion loses authority, discipline becomes unstoppable. Musashi understood something that modern psychology now confirms. Emotion is not a reliable signal for decision-making under pressure. It is reactive, short-sighted, self-preserving. A warrior cannot be governed by self-preservation. So Musashi stripped emotion of command. He did not attempt to eliminate emotion. That would be impossible. He simply refused to let it vote. This is the difference between suppression and obedience. Suppression creates tension. Obedience creates silence. When the rule is clear, the mind relaxes. This is why Musashi appeared calm even in violent circumstances. There was no internal debate, no emotional turbulence, only execution. Most people suffer not from hardship, but from inner negotiation. They exhaust themselves arguing with their own resistance. Musashi ended the argument. He established a single authority inside himself, the path. And the path did not care how he felt. This is why his discipline did not crack during illness, injury, or isolation. Emotion spikes under stress. That is when most systems fail. Musashi's did not, because it did not depend on emotion in the first place. Modern discipline systems encourage emotional alignment. Find your why. Feel motivated. Connect emotionally. Musashi would have considered this dangerous. Emotion ties discipline to conditions. Remove the feeling, and the behavior collapses. Musashi tied discipline to structure. Structure does not disappear when emotion does. This is why his training days were identical whether he felt strong or weak. The body learned obedience through repetition. Eventually, resistance stopped appearing. Not because the work became easy, but because disobedience felt unnatural. This is the point where discipline crosses from psychological to physiological. The body moves before the mind reacts. The hands act before doubt forms. The feet step forward before fear speaks. This is not instinct. It is trained inevitability. Musashi did not rely on bursts of intensity. He relied on baseline obedience. This is why his discipline looked boring from the outside. No theatrics, no emotional speeches, no visible struggle, just repetition. Over time, obedience reshapes identity. You stop thinking of yourself as someone who tries. You become someone who executes. Emotion becomes background noise. It exists, but it does not interfere. This is why Musashi could endure long periods of solitude without collapse. Loneliness is emotional. Obedience is not. Most people break in isolation because emotion amplifies without distraction. Musashi replaced distraction with structure. Even alone, he had rules. Even unseen, he obeyed. This is the mark of true discipline. What you do when no one is watching. What you do when nothing feels rewarding. What you do when emotion offers every reason to stop. Musashi did not resist those moments. He bypassed them. He understood that obedience removes suffering. Suffering comes from resistance, not pain. Pain is information. Resistance is choice. Musashi removed choice. This is why his discipline was terrifying. Not because it was harsh, but because it was final. Once obedience is installed, quitting is no longer an option. Not because you are strong, but because there is nothing left to argue. In the final chapter, we reach the end state, where discipline no longer feels imposed, where obedience no longer feels strict, where the system closes in on itself, and quitting becomes impossible, not through force, but through inevitability. Chapter 7. The Rule That Ends Fear. Fear does not disappear through courage. It disappears through structure. This was the final realization behind Miyamoto Musashi's most frightening discipline rule. Fear survives only where choice, hesitation, and identity remain intact. Musashi did not try to conquer fear emotionally. He dismantled the conditions that allowed fear to exist. By the time this rule was fully installed, fear had no role left to play. Most people misunderstand fear. They think it appears because something is dangerous. Musashi understood something colder. Fear appears when the self imagines loss. Loss of comfort, loss of status, loss of control, loss of identity. Fear is not about pain. It is about attachment. Musashi removed attachment first. By the time danger arrived, there was nothing left to protect. This is what made him terrifyingly calm in situations that broke others. When you no longer identify with outcomes, fear has no leverage. The final discipline rule was simple, but merciless. Act as if retreat does not exist, internally or externally. Not as motivation, not as a mantra, as a lived condition. Musashi trained under the assumption that whatever he faced, he would endure it fully. Not because he was fearless, but because fear was irrelevant. Fear requires an alternative. If this goes wrong, I can escape. Musashi erased the escape. Once escape disappears, fear collapses. What remains is clarity. This is the moment discipline becomes absolute. Not aggressive, not dramatic, silent and final. Most people believe discipline is strongest when it feels intense. Musashi proved discipline is strongest when it feels neutral. When action no longer carries emotional weight. When danger does not feel special. When pain is processed as information, not threat. This is why Musashi could step into duels without visible tension. He had already accepted every possible outcome. There was nothing left to lose. This acceptance was not passive. It was trained, daily, in small, brutal ways. Cold exposure, hunger, isolation, monotony. Each removed attachment. Each narrowed the self, until fear had no audience. Modern people try to eliminate fear by seeking reassurance. Musashi eliminated fear by removing dependence. Dependence on comfort. Dependence on validation. Dependence on certainty. Certainty is fragile. Musashi chose inevitability instead. If you are willing to endure whatever comes, fear loses power. This is the unspoken core of his discipline system. Not success, not victory. Endurance without internal collapse. This is why his discipline is frightening. It cannot be negotiated with. It does not soften under pressure. It does not need belief. It only needs repetition. Once installed, this rule transforms the nervous system. The body stops bracing. The mind stops catastrophizing. Action becomes clean. This is what people mistake for bravery. It is not bravery. Bravery still trembles. This is acceptance without emotion. Most people never reach this stage because they stop at comfort. They want discipline without discomfort. Musashi knew that discomfort was the doorway. If you avoid discomfort, you preserve fear. If you endure it without story, fear dissolves. This is the scariest part of Musashi's system. It does not make you feel powerful. It makes you unmovable. Once fear is gone, manipulation becomes impossible. Threats fail. Pressure fails. Chaos fails. You cannot be rushed. You cannot be cornered. Because there is no internal collapse waiting to be triggered. This is why Musashi's discipline worked not only in combat, but in life. He did not depend on timing. He did not depend on conditions. He did not depend on motivation. He depended on structure. And structure does not feel fear. If you apply this rule, understand what it demands. You will lose comfort before you gain control. You will lose excuses before you gain strength. You will lose identity before you gain freedom. This is why most people will never use it. But those who do become impossible to break, not because they are fearless, but because fear no longer has permission to exist. This was Musashi's final lesson. Discipline does not remove danger. It removes the part of you that panics when danger arrives. And once that part is gone, nothing can stop you. This rule is not dangerous because it is extreme. It is dangerous because it works. It removes negotiation. It removes identity. It removes the voice that asks for relief. If you are still searching for motivation, this rule will repel you. If you are still attached to comfort, this rule will terrify you. But if you are ready to stop oscillating between discipline and regret, this rule ends the cycle permanently, not through inspiration, through inevitability. If you want more videos on ancient discipline systems, warrior psychology, and mental control, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And ask yourself one question in silence. What escape route are you still protecting? Because that is where discipline dies. And Musashi